This is the external service of Bangladesh Betar. Dear listeners, we now present you a special program, Letter to Mankind, on changes needed in achieving the Millennium Development Goals in Bangladesh.
Between now and 2015, 45 million children will die. 247 million people in sub-Saharan Africa will be living on less than $1 a day. 97 million children will not be enrolled in schools. 53 million people in the world will lack proper sanitation facilities. This will be a grim legacy to be shared by entire mankind if current trends continue. In September 2000, at the Millennium Summit of the United Nations, the world leaders unanimously approved the Millennium Declarations. World leaders said, "We will spare no effort to free our fellow men, women and children from abject and dehumanizing conditions of extreme poverty." The declaration stated 8 goals under 18 targets known as the Millennium Development Goals, MDGs. Asia Pacific is the most populated and yet diverse region in the planet, as well as being one of the most destitute corners in the globe. Some countries of this region have achieved the highest living standards, while others struggle to meet their daily basic needs. Here it is not uncommon to see in the same street luxury resorts on one side and on the opposite side the sprawling slums. The disparity is severe for least developed countries, LDCs, without or sans border ranges. And yet MDGs are the expressed commitments of nations, rich and poor, to better human lives. According to global experts, these are realistic and achievable within the time frame allotted to them. The 8 MDGs range from halving extreme poverty to halting the spread of HIV/AIDS and providing universal primary education for all by the target date of 2015. All of this emanates from a blueprint agreed to by all the world's countries and all the world's leading development institutions. The MDGs actually provide an achievable framework to meet the needs of the world's poorest. The Millennium Summit was the largest ever gathering of heads of state in the reported records of the United Nations. 5 years later, the leaders met again on September 14th to 16th, 2005, to take stock of how the governments have lived up to their promises. The then UN Secretary General Kofi Annan was clear when he said,
"What the world needs now is leadership that will see this summit's development decisions implemented fully and without delay. This is a matter of morality, security, and enlightened self-interest. We have an opportunity to save tens of millions of lives over the next decade and to lift hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. We must not disappoint them."
A statement not for a nation, but for humanity. Bangladesh and LDC is well positioned to realize majority of the goals within the stipulated time. The country is on track on the first 3 MDGs. In the areas of expansion of primary and secondary education, reduction of gender disparity, and eradication of hunger in the form of poverty reduction, Bangladesh is an example of what success can look like. Bangladesh has one of the highest primary school enrollment rates in the developing world. The country has achieved gender parity in enrollment at the primary and lower secondary schools. And population growth rate has been significantly reduced to 1.47% from 3% in the 1970s. In these areas, the progress achieved by the country during 1990 to 2000 is consistent or even higher than the pace of annual progress required for achieving MDGs by 2015. This is an example of what proper planning and commitment can achieve even in a country that is only 35 years old. Though the country is doing better in the first 3 MDGs, there is quite a lot to do in the health sector. Among the 8 Millennium Development Goals, MDG 5 is to reduce the maternal mortality rate by 3/4. Bangladesh maternal mortality rates have declined from 574 to between 320 and 400 per 100,000 births during the last few decades. But this is still among the highest in the world. The rate of complicated pregnancies at 40% is also the highest in the world. Lack of awareness, insufficiency of emergency obstetric care, increasing violence against women are the risk factors that come in the way of progress. It is estimated that 14% of maternal deaths are caused by violence. Malnourishment is another factor causing maternal deaths. The present rate of reducing malnourishment of mothers, averaging 1% point per year, indicates that about 25 to 30% will still remain malnourished by 2015, while the target is to reduce it below 20%. Professor Dr. T.A. Chowdhury says in this regard.
Prevention of this death and disability, both in the mother and the child, does not totally depend on medical intervention. If we concentrate solely on the medical aspect of the problem, it is not going to solve. Because with medical improvement, there must also be economic improvement, social improvement, and other factors also which contribute to the reduction in the death of mothers and children. Increase in the number of institutional deliveries. Now that is a very important aspect, because once the patient goes to an institution, there are people to look after her, which is not always available in most of the places when delivery takes place at home. In Bangladesh, still a large number of deliveries take place at home, and often in the absence of a qualified or efficient birth attendant. And even if it is done with right earnest, it requires continuity of the effort as well as a strong political commitment. Now, unless these things are there, it's not going to work as fast as we would expect it to work.
Reducing child mortality rate by 2/3 is another MDG. Despite recent progress, child malnutrition in Bangladesh still remains among the highest in the world and more severe than most other developing countries, including that of sub-Saharan Africa. The proportion of underweight children in Bangladesh is 16% higher than in 16 other Asian countries, which have similar levels of per capita GDP. The present rate of progress in immunization is 1.3% per year, which means it would take 24 years to achieve the target. In this situation, Dr. Parveen Fatima feels
we need a special group who can take care of them in this location. For this, we need huge skilled manpower, a huge amount of resource to have this facility run in proper condition. Maternal malnutrition is a vicious circle, and they themselves cannot come out of the circle. We need to help by providing supports and creating jobs.
the most alarming time bomb for the LDCs is HIV. Jasmine is now living an inhuman life. On condition not to disclose her identity, she told her tragic story. Jasmine had completed her honours and masters from Dhaka University, got married to an expatriate through family arrangement. After 3 years, it was revealed that her husband is an HIV positive. She was shattered and could not continue her relationship. She now lives with her parents in continuous mental torture. Who is responsible for Jasmine's infection? What is in store for her? However, this is the untold story of an HIV victim. The World Health Organization, WHO, said 13,000 people had HIV at the end of 2001 in Bangladesh. People hide their HIV status for fear of separation from even their beloved ones. The increasing trend of HIV positive indicates that the country is on the brink of a nationwide crisis, and still today developing countries could not show significant success against the spread of HIV/AIDS. In this regard, an HIV victim feels
একজন এইচআইভি যে পজিটিভ বা আক্রান্ত তাকে এই জন্য রক্ষা করতে হবে কারণ একজন
We have to support and ensure the needs of an HIV/AIDS patient because without having the safety of an HIV positive patient, it will be quite impossible to get success in preventing HIV/AIDS. Medicine needed for HIV/AIDS patients are very costly in our country. For patients in general, it is difficult to buy and continue the medicine. Media can play a significant role in controlling and preventing HIV/AIDS.
investment in education leads to the creation and distribution of new wealth. It contributes to the reduction of both absolute and relative poverty. But to get the fruits of the investment, it may take a whole generation. Resources invested today in education may lead us to reducing poverty only after several years, when the poor, whose human capital provides the benefit of increased earnings, also have greater ability in self-employment. In some cases, this may take 20 to 30 years. Mr. Karim is a peasant living in Chowdhury district. He didn't receive any land from his ancestors. He works the land of others. Karim has 4 sons and a daughter. 3 sons assist him in farming and other activities for survival. Karim sent his eldest son to school, but he is not satisfied with this.
আমার বড় ছেলের নাম বাশার বাশার এখন কলেজে লেখাপড়া করে
My eldest son Bashar, he is in college now. In future, at the end of study, after getting job, he will give me money. But I am fighting for survival. How would I maintain my family at present? I am in need of cash. Bashar will assist me financially after getting job. You tell me, what should I do now?
The opinion of Mr. Karim is the harsh reality. Nor is this deniable. Rather, it indicates the socio-economic dilemma of rural people here. Illiteracy is not in itself the original obstacle. It's the result of earlier hindrances and later becomes an obstacle. An illiterate man is the man who has no need to read. In evaluating the situation, Professor Dr. Atiur Rahman said,
Poverty is of course the number one problem for Bangladesh. To improve the situation, you'll have to attack it from many quarters. And for that matter, we need to really focus on many issues, including infrastructures, education, health. If you really want to attack this multidimensional, an enemy called poverty. There are certainly differentiation in poverty. Malnourished people, find it very difficult to continue their education without tiffins. And one of the challenges will remain how to localize the Millennium Development Goals. The goals in Africa or the goals in Europe may not be the same as our goals. So we need to pursue our development strategy in our own way, involve the people. It has to be a real good political commitment. The government alone cannot do it. Our resource constraint, there is a serious resource constraint. We must put all our hands together to realize the Millennium Development Goals, because poverty is still the curse for the civilization.
What should we do to achieve the MDGs? A hard question, but not impossible to answer. For the achievement of MDGs, the vital requisite is the creation of awareness among the masses. Knowledge is the best catalyst in this journey. In many rural areas, a primary school is the only organized institution available, and school teachers are the only point of contact with the world outside. This institutional influence of education can be greatly magnified if the educational program and personnel become actively involved in the development of the community. On June the 21st, 2006, a letter was published in the national daily newspaper named Jugantur. On June 24th and consecutively on June 25th, two other letters were published in the newspaper named Prothom Alu, the most widely circulated newspaper in Bangladesh. If the stories of these letters are true, the lowest salary of a primary school teacher is 1,625 taka. Per day income of a teacher is taka 54. For a family of minimum 4 members, the teacher can allot taka 13 only for daily food and shelter purpose. Devotion and commitment to build society are substituted by the continuous struggle for meeting their basic needs. Asking for solution in this regard, Professor Dr. Siddiqur Rahman says,
in education, nothing is better than its teacher, but very poor salary and poor incentive package of teachers are the main causes that lead to poor quality of education. Among all the means of achieving the Millennium Development Goal, education is the most effective one. Teachers having sound academic background and firm professional commitment should be given emphasis. There should be scope of career path. At present, at primary level and secondary level, once you are a teacher for the whole of your life. Improvement of quality of education and redesigning curriculum, keeping in mind the market requirements, will help solve many of our problems.
Asia and the Pacific are making more progress towards the MDGs than sub-Saharan Africa. It includes China, India, Indonesia, Pakistan and Bangladesh, 5 of the world's 7 most populous countries. The countries that achieved overall success than others are also those who spend relatively large shares of GDP on both education and health. Considering the population size of Bangladesh, the amount of fund that would be needed to have a significant impact is tremendous. Bangladesh receives less than 5% of its gross national income in official development assistance from development partners. In this situation, it is notable that Bangladesh has increased its own effort to tackle the task with its own resources. There is the will, but also a struggle for a better tomorrow. Being a member of the LDC, it is true that the government has the primary responsibility to prioritize national development. But to help countries most in need, developed countries must also support their side of the global partnership bargain, ensure fair trade and a fair share of global prosperity for poor people. This letter to mankind will be successful if only these commitments materialize. It will be the right thing to do for the right reason. Apt lyrics for a meaningful song.
And that song brings us to the end of our special program, Letter to Mankind. We shall be glad to receive your comments and observations about our program. Our address is Director, External Service, Bangladesh Betar, Post Box number 2204, Dhaka 1000, Bangladesh. Best wishes to you all from your presenter Laily Mowla, narrator Mahmudur Rahman, sound recorder Mesbauddin Ahmed and SM Shahidul Islam, technical assistant Siddiqur Shekhornag and music producer Azad Minto. This program was directed by Parveen, supervised by Chowdhury, and it was compiled, edited and produced by Dewan, Ahsan, Habib.